and where they can actually improve. But in powerlifting, if you miss a squat, like you find out why you missed that squat. This is a big deal. Like powerlifters do this shit because it's important to get them better.
So many rugby players are guilty of constantly worrying if they can do more, constantly worrying if they could push themselves harder. And I think that's because they haven't got these objective markers or an objective plan. Yes, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another brand new Rugby Muscle podcast. I'm joined once again with this beautiful face to my... it's to my right as I'm looking at the screen. I'm not really sure if it is to the right or to the left. Is that your right hand? Alex,
Yes.
how you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm good, thanks.
So today we've decided that we're going to hop on this podcast and we're going to discuss lessons learned from powerlifting, or lessons that rugby players can learn from powerlifting. I decided this is a good topic to go over because I think it's like we get a lot of guys that come into the rugby muscle sphere from like doing powerlifting training. In fact, shout out to a couple new clients that I've got, or new athletes that have joined the team, that they actually came from the Juggernaut training system, and it's one of the most common things that people do is that they'll search for the internet how to get stronger, how to get stronger for rugby, and that's where they come to us. But they'll also just generally search, like, what do I need to do in the gym? I know that I'm not just going to do whatever I find in men's fitness. I know that I need to get in the gym and get stronger. I know that I'm not going to be training like a bodybuilder. What do I need to do? And so, like, what ends up happening is they end up searching for powerlifting, and then they do a powerlifting program, they get stronger, but it's not really helping them, like, get better as a rugby player. So then they come to Rugby Muscle, and then they, like, learn a bunch more things, and actually they perform better than they've ever performed and all this stuff. But we actually want to take a step back, and we want to say, okay, what does powerlifting do really well that we can learn from? So, Alex, you were a rugby player. You now are a powerlifter, right? Would you agree with that? Those two statements?
Yep, at least pretending.
So,
Yep.
well, trying,
Yep.
yeah, trying to do.
I have played
you
rugby.
tried to play
Powerlifting.
rugby, and now you're trying to powerlift. Shout out to, it's Fernando, by the way, is the guy that came in from Juggernaut. Shout out to Fernando. But yeah, it's very common. We get guys that come in that they all want to, now they've learned some good things from powerlifting, and what are those things that they can keep if they want to carry on training but they want to apply them to rugby? What's your first thing that you think that we can learn as rugby players?
So there's a few things that powerlifters do, and I think it's because people who are drawn to powerlifting tend to be boring, and they're type A, and they're just like, they like order and they like getting things done.
Yeah.
So I think you'll find that powerlifters are much more consistent about their training. Like
Okay.
you know that you're not going to put 10 kilo on your max in a week, but you might, if you turn up every day for X amount of time, you are going to get stronger. So in the consistency,
this. I love this. I love that you've opened it up by saying it might not even necessarily be powerlifting. It's the people that are drawn to powerlifting because of the fact that it's like, here are the three things that you've got to improve. Here's how you can objectively keep improving, for as long as you need to in the gym to do a sport. It's probably most people that go to, they go to a gym and then they follow a standard workout split or whatever they fucking do. And then they're like, okay, what's the point of this? I'm not motivated. So then they take up powerlifting to get them motivated because now they've got objective measures, which is, as you suggested, they're type A type person, right?
which takes us to the next point. That kind of segues into the next thing that powerlifters do, and this is particularly powerlifters, less so weightlifters, is focus on weak points or understand the performance indicators and the secondary performance indicators and where they can actually improve. But in powerlifting, if you miss a squat, like you find out why you missed that squat.
Okay,
Maybe
hold on. Let me unpack the first point because I don't want to. Because I know this second point is a massive rabbit hole that I will want to go down. So that first point of just being consistent, like that's fucking meat and potatoes of something that people need to understand, right? How many
Yeah.
rugby players, right? Do you like? Also, no. Let's go back to how many powerlifters do you coach or do you know firsthand that go to the gym and they'll train for a couple of weeks and then they'll stop training and then they'll train for another couple of weeks and then maybe they'll train for a week and then all of a sudden they've got a competition coming up in 3 weeks, so then they decide to train for those 3 weeks.
Not a single one.
That doesn't
For people I
happen,
work with,
right? No, like
I wouldn't coach them with that.
or even people that are that consider themselves a powerlifter. Like, that just doesn't happen because you have to be you have to be consistent to get these objective markers going up. Rugby, you get this all the time, and not necessarily actually in terms of just in general showing up to training when they haven't got things on. Oh, I'm free this week. I can finally go to training on Tuesday and Thursday night. But also also massively with their strength and conditioning, if you identify yourself as a rugby player, but you're not doing extra stuff in the gym to get better, that's fine. But it's probably bring up identifying because powerlifters that's something that I think powerlifters hold strong is that they are powerlifters. They'll bring their whole fucking giant cricket bag. Yeah, it is. They've gone too far on the end of the spectrum. But rugby players are I can't. I'm a rugby lad. Why is that? Oh, because I booze. So it is something that
you see a power time. It's fucked.
But what's funny is with rugby, you get weight less. And it doesn't even have to be lifting weights. It just has to be getting fit, being in shape. Because for rugby, it's a far even low level. It's a far more physically demanding sport than what powerlifting is. For powerlifting, you've got a bench, you've got a squat, you've got a deadlift, and obviously to be the best powerlifter in the world, those physical demands go up exponentially. But same thing for rugby, right? If you're we've broken down that the needs that an England rugby player would need, how much high maintenance they are. That's much higher maintenance than the world class powerlifter.
I think it's actually probably arguable, but at the lower levels that we would deal with in rugby and powerlifting, maybe not me powerlifting, but in general,
But no, you're dealing with a high level, but lower level powerlifting, that's the other thing is probably guys at powerlifting. They if we're looking at powerlifters training, lower level powerlifting sometimes doesn't really exist, because of the elitist nature of it, because of the fact it's a strange competition. I'm not gonna, and I might do, but it's I wouldn't consider myself a powerlifter if I showed up and I squatted 150 kilos less than some other guy in my weight class. You know what I mean? But you could be 100 that equivalent worse than the top regional players in your country, but still go play rugby. So there is that to it. But I definitely think that there's also not that very obviously the consistent nature of your training means that you become a good powerlifter anyway. And that could also definitely apply to rugby. I think rugby, we sort of hamstring ourselves to the level that we play at, and sometimes don't think that we can play better, or we blame our other teammates. Whatever. We don't look to consistently we hit adult rugby and then we stop trying to get better, or we're told this is how good we're supposed to be. Whereas powerlifting, if I put in this work, I'm gonna get to this level,
and that reward.
Yeah. So I think, get off your phone, by the way. Throw that away. Whatever that is. There you go. All right. So, That's
why I fucking need a cleaner. That's what I do shit like that.
That's my point. But that was the point I was trying to get to, was the amount of rugby players that go, oh, okay, yeah, I need to get fit. Okay, what are you going to do? Oh, I don't know. And this is probably more going to the second point, right? Because this is where we tie it in. It's there's no, that consistency just isn't there for most rugby players that want to get fit. And there's also reasons about how high they set their expectations and how hard they push themselves. Yeah. We'll get into that. I think we'll get into that after. But for now, let's approach that second point, right? So objective measures, was it?
It was knowing where the weak points are and addressing weak points. So we would look at rugby and say, this is what you touched on in the England rugby video where you spoke about, what's that winger's name?
Johnny May.
No, one, the fun one.
Oh, Anthony Watson.
Yep.
Mate, Johnny May is fun.
Less exciting though. Anyway, the point is like he was working. Anthony Watson was working on specific skills that he knew he needed to do, right?
Yeah.
And you said like average Saturday League rugby player probably isn't going away and working on a specific skill he needs to work on.
Yeah, massively. Like they are doing their Tuesday, Thursday work. They're probably asking the coach, like even the good ones. Like I used to do this. Thinking about it, like now, I'm like, oh fuck, could have done better. But I used to ask the coach, like, where do you need me to get better, right? Where do you need me to, like, because if I was on the bench, you know, or where do you need me to? And actually, that's funny. I would only ask it if I was on the bench. If I was playing every week, I would never ask. Where do you want?
You already know. Yeah.
I'm already the best I can be. I'm being picked for the team, which is a shame. Anyway, he would ask, you know, I would ask, you know, where do you think I should improve, or where do I need to improve to get picked? Blah blah blah. He'd give me a few errors. Even then, like, oh, you're not making enough tackles in the game, or you're not getting over the ball enough in the game. I would never work on. I would never take 10 minutes to work on that before practice or at the end of training or go out. I would work on my strength and conditioning. I would try and get fitter because often, the default answer, you got to get fitter, you got to get faster. So I'd work on fitness. I'd kind of work on speed as part of that, but would never work on just my jackling, just breaking down that. And now, if I was to go back and do that, like, Jesus Christ, I'd turn up 30 minutes early, and I would just do 15 minutes of tackling and then 15 minutes of getting over the ball, and it would just be with another flanker, and we would just and like I've got a few guys that are back rows that ask me, they're like, oh, have you got a session to plan? I'm like, just do it, just get reps in at a low level, and that is I've seen a video of Brendan Venter, and he was saying the same thing, like you don't believe the amount of like low level work you can do that will improve that skill. Like you see it with, and it's something that like we said before in the England video as well. Like how many reps technique work? And this is more Olympic lifting, but how much technique work do you do without that intensity, right? So you haven't got you're doing your squats and you're just doing technique work, but you're not replicating what that squat would feel like in a competition. You're not doing your 1 rep max, but you're getting technique work in at a low level so that when you do get to that max, you're going to be better. And that's what you can do for rugby, right? You can do technique work so that when you do get into an intense nature in a game, you can get better. And it's like, it doesn't happen. Like people are told, hit that ruck harder. Oh, we've got to win the ruck harder. How do I do that, coach? You got to fucking man up. Like we never practice.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
So walking any powerlifting gym in the world, people are working on weak points.
Yeah.
Right. And not just that, like people put in the prehab work. So like you're saying, they're getting early. So I'm going to share my screen. I assume I can. Check this out. All right. So this is just an example of one of my guys' programs. And he's not a powerlifter, but it's indicative of what a powerlifting session would look like. His first, like, what's this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 movements in a day of preparation work, right?
Right. And this wouldn't be like this wouldn't be counted as a warm up. Like this is prep work. No. Like you would warm up and then you would do this stuff. Is more my point. Like a bit of both, but you get my point.
If you need to, you do, yeah. And so, like, this is a big deal. Like, powerlifters do this shit because it's important to get them better.
Yeah, and it's like, how often do we, like, you don't do this with rugby because guys go to they'll show up to training and then what will they do? They'll play fucking terrible touch.
They'll kick the ball around.
Oh, I hate, right? How many props just rock up and then they just start fucking kicking the ball?
Kick drop goals. So then do it. We're gonna spend 20 minutes kicking drop goals.
Why? Why are you doing that? Like, I get it. Like, you got to have some fun, but try and find some fun in the. And this is probably like another thing that go like have fun in your accessories, because that's like, or in your like little work-ons. Like, that's something that powerlifting, like powerlifters in themselves, actually probably can do quite a lot better. Like shit powerlifters, they go in, they do their squat, their bench, their deadlift, and then they fuck off, or they do, like, you know what I mean? Like they don't do them efficiently enough, and they don't worry about their accessory work, and they don't get better, or they get better, but nowhere near at the rate they could have, like,
Yeah,
you know, from good
for sure. And
powerlifters.
that's enough accessory work and doing the bits and muscle, right? So that's the big things that powerlifters are really good at is breaking down what they need to do
Yeah.
and what they've done and how to fix it. Like, they're good at bridging the gap.
And I think it's a lot easier with powerlifting because you've got such a simple, you've got three movements. That's it, which is already like made it such a simpler sport than rugby. And those movements are really simple, so you can see where the movement breaks down. Okay,
Yeah,
I struggle. I suck at locking out my deadlift, so there's a very easy mechanism by which you can learn. Whereas a rugby, like, it takes, like, okay, I'm not getting around the field enough. I need to work on my aerobic condition, or I'm losing the ball in contact. I need to work on my core a little bit, or my grip.
This is another thing that powerlifters tend to be good at as well, is being process driven.
Yeah.
So I know that. So I categorize my movements by competition exercises, special developmental or specific developmental, specific preparation, and general preparation. Right. And that's just how I do it. It's a system I like, and a system that works well for me and my lifters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's a rugby system like that. But it could be that we could break down. If you gave me a list of things that happen in rugby, we could plug them into the same ideas and make a system that would give you ways to improve those specific qualities.
Yeah, I do that. It's a lot. Again, it's not. It's just a lot more difficult to make it completely like data driven versus versus powerlifting. But there is still everything like what I do is still systemized, right? So we're looking at the different aspects of a performance, and then we've got before even we're looking into position specific stuff, because that takes up such a small part of the game, it's not really necessary. Like, that's something I've come away from quite recently, and probably shout out to Kia, the rugby strength coach, for showing me this. But like, it is going away from like a lot of that special strength stuff, because it's just not as important, because it's done already. It's built into the game. Like, how much better is a line out? Perfect example, right? How much more productive is a line out going to be if you have one jumper who's slightly better at jumping, like he improves his jump ability, versus having 7 forwards all on the same, or 20 forwards all on the same page, doing a really well executed line out lift? It's going to be the second one, right? So why we can't micromanage. Say again?
The Brumbies' most recent games, the last like 3 games, they've scored off the back of lineouts just from really slick moves.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, but then you can look at teams. I can't think of any off the top. There's one team. Who was it? There's a few teams where their lineout just could. I think it might have even been Leinster. Against, did they play Toulouse? And they just could not win a line out, right? And that's not down to the jumper. Like, people, and you also see in a commentator always will blame the hooker, but it's down to that whole system. And then if you were to break, and if you take that powerlifting sort of objective look at it, systematized look at it, you say, right, where's the fault here? And often what actually happens in rugby is there's like 6 different faults, all happen at different lineouts, right? So it's the whole system that's broken. It's not going to be solved by a second row jumping higher. And in fact, that second row that spent his time jumping higher could actually spend so much time doing other things that are going to make him a better player.
So if I was to look at that, I would break it down from a not just from a physical point of view, but from a skills point of view and a tactical point of view as
100%.
well.
I mean, that's where you're going to get the most gains from your line out. Isn't a physical point of view, unless you can stick someone in a good couple gallons of Miracle Grow, water that shit overnight, and have someone get a couple inches taller. But I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
That's what we want it like. I'm gonna share my.
Oh, why are you sharing the screen again? All right, we'll figure it out. Go on.
I got to show you something. It's long-term planning.
Okay.
It's something that powerlifters is doing, and rugby just doesn't.
Yeah.
Right. So let me share this again, and hopefully you're ready this time.
For some reason it's not. But yeah. There we go.
All right. So I can't see what's going on here, so I'm just going to pretend this is working. So this is a long-term athletic development plan, right? And it's something we should have in rugby because we take athletes from a young age and just keep them working until they drop out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how many players do you know who've built themselves a plan like this, where we look at performance goals? So Temi's got 2 competitions this year, Worlds and Europeans, right? And British, actually.
Have we had this conversation before? I am getting massive deja vu. And I think I got deja vu last time we had this conversation, right? That I will link below a playlist that is called something like Build Your Own Rugby Program, okay? And on that, we talk long-term planning, and on that, I actually go through what a macro cycle will look like for a rugby athlete. So it's something that I know at least 50-ish people do because they have them. And then also those that have viewed it hopefully did them themselves. It's something that you're so right, is never done. And even that, like, because rugby is a lot more chaotic, it has to be a lot more fluid, right?
Well, this is what periodization is, right? Periodization isn't a plan. Periodization is a projection of what something could happen. So it's a prediction.
Well, I was going to say, it's a plan. It's not a script.
Oh, I like that. So what I said was taken directly from John Keeley.
We'll take that one directly from TJ Jankowski, mate. That was.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna.
It is like it's a plan, but nothing goes to fucking plan.
Yeah,
like, we know.
I'm gonna give John a message and tell him that.
Send him a picture of my face and say, "Listen, this guy's got something better." Anyway, yeah.
This is much better.
But yeah,
he used to be an Island boxer.
No.
Do you know who John Keeley is?
Nope. Oh yeah, I do.
No.
Yeah, John Keeley.
Periodization guy. Yeah.
Yeah. But so the point is, I think if anything, it's way more needed in rugby. I think it's needed for 2 different reasons. So for powerlifting, it's needed because you've got this real single, like, objective-based sport, very, very, very basic, and it just gets monotonous. Number one, it gets monotonous, and there's also, because you just do this one thing, there are so many other things that you miss out on that could actually go back and influence that one thing to make it better, right? Mm-hmm. So, easy basic example would be, if you're just continually maxing, you're going to keep getting stronger. It's going to really slow down and grind to a halt. Not even grind to a halt, it would just slow down, theoretically, right? If you just never stop working strength. But if you took a step back, you made the muscle size bigger, all of a sudden you've got more scope to become a better or a stronger athlete. So then you would go back to your strength, and then you would get, that bigger muscle would hopefully then produce a stronger lift. And that's like really basic, because you could also look at, okay, if it's my lockout or it's whatever, you would look at specific musculature parts as well. With rugby, you've got the opposite problem where you've got so many things that you want to take care of that you're going to be missing out on some of them, at least missing out on making them better. You can train them enough, like training to maintain is easy enough, but you've got so many different things that you can excel at that will make you stand out or at least hang as a rugby player that you could be missing out on. And
sure, and then we're talking about vertical integration and such, but
yep, and also the weaker you are at each element, the easier that element is to bring up, right? So if you're already like we reviewed the England boys video, you could talk about like Johnny May. The amount of work that Johnny May has to do to get faster is like a lot, right? Versus the amount of work that he would have to put in to get better at, I don't know, to get stronger, right? Or to get maybe a stronger fend or just get generally more muscular would be a lot less. Now, would that give him the same dividends? That's the data you've got to look at. That's where you've got to take a step back and figure out your weaknesses. But there's so much different scope that would make it easier. You know, I find it all the time with guys that come in, particularly guys that come in from a powerlifting realm, right? They already squat 200 kilos. Okay, you're playing at level 6 as a back. You don't need to be any stronger than this to be a better rugby player. So we can just maintain that strength. Yes, we can utilize that and make it, you know, even greater strength and make it something that you could stand out by. But if we just develop that into some extra speed, you'd be significantly better as a rugby player versus all the time it would take in to get stronger. So you've got all these different areas as a player. Year round, you have to consider spending different times in these different realms, for sure. And that's definitely something that, again, it's a type of athlete that is encouraged to become a powerlifter because they're type A, they're drawn to it. It's like very, like, you're data driven versus, and that's something that I've had to deal with here is like, with my own training here recently is I only get my sessions a few days in advance, and we're following a very, like, there's a structure. I know, yeah. Neurotic me hates it, but like it's perfect because it's actually countering my own sort of neuroses within my own training. It's freeing up so much more mental energy to put in elsewhere. But for like for rugby players, like, we should have some sort of idea of what we want to do. It blows my mind, even like from coaching from ball coaches at that lower level. Like, how often do they beast you on a Tuesday for no other reason than you lost on a Saturday? Like, that's it, you know?
Fucking mental. Like, exercise as punishment is fucking insane.
That's a complete different topic for another conversation.
It's one of the things I really hate it.
Yeah,
it's fucking,
me too.
It's so, yeah.
But like,
so counterproductive.
Like, in general, periodizing your work is like, it's something. Like, but it's also, if we dial back, it's also only something that you can do if you have got the other things in place. So if you're not training consistently, right, then, like, what are you periodizing for? Like, you don't need to. Like, and if you don't know what your weaknesses are, and if you don't know what your current layout is, very difficult again. So it would be, but I think also you could say that, but also these three things feed into each other. If you've got a year-round plan, you're able to then get a better idea, of what your weaknesses are, of your strengths, of what you can bring up, of what helps make you a better player, right? If you never do any aerobic work, you'll have no idea of how much aerobic work could benefit you as a game. Or as a player. If you don't do any speed work, you don't know, like, how much more gains you could have to be made there, like how much faster that and how much better a player that could make you. You could do a bunch of speed work and realize, oh, I never really get the room to do this speed work in a game. It's not really going to pay dividends. Or I'm already tapped out on my potential. Maybe I need to get stronger before I get faster, etc. But if you don't do any of that, then you're never going to know. So, and also with that in mind, I think having that long-term plan helps you stay consistent because you've got this predictable outcome that you know you're going to reach. So you know at the end of the year, like, if you're working on all these different things, like, fuck, you know you're going to be a better rugby player. So there's no, like, there's no question in it. There's no lack of motivation there. Whereas, and this is going back to, like, bringing us full circle to that point I was kind of sort of touching on earlier, is, like, the lack of consistency a lot of the time from rugby players comes from they think that all they've got to do is beast themselves. They're like, okay, I'm not fit. What have I got to do? Okay, I'm going to run the Bronco 5 times every day or every week. You know, you just get knackered, you just get hurt, or you just get, like, completely burned out, and then you quit, and then you stop doing it. So then you just go in that same vicious circle because you think that's what you've got to do to improve. Whereas if you actually go back and you look at the areas that you require really like a small amount of effort. It still requires effort, but comparatively to getting yourself mentally to doing all those different Broncos or whatever savage fitness session you saw on social media versus, okay, I'm just going to go out and do a 5K of solid aerobic work.
Like a steady 5K, not even like a fucking fast one.
No, like God, no. One. Yeah. The amount of times I've got to tell my guys, like, no, you've ran too fast there. Like, bring that heart rate down. Oh. Tempo
Mate,
work.
Even
how easy is fucking tempo work?
Yeah. Like, just fucking don't try as hard.
Yeah.
Be better at being good. Just don't try.
And I guess that's something that, like, powerlifters do really well is they're fucking lazy, man. Like, some powerlifters can be real fucking... Like, they're not worried about it, though. They're not scared about pushing them... Like, they're scared about pushing themselves too hard and getting themselves injured or overtrained. When all they're doing is fucking standing under a bar and lifting it up and down a bit. Whereas rugby players have got all this stuff going on, and then they make themselves do so much, like, in their... they set their expectations up so high that they just fall all the way down. Because, again, they just do the sessions of, like, that are completely unnecessary. Like, you wouldn't do... It's like going into powerlifting and then going straight into Smolov, or, like, Smolov on steroids or whatever, the extreme Smolov.
A new onboard guy. I had a new guy on board today from India. The guy was fucking jacked. Like, incredibly jacked. He looked like a bodybuilder. Natural as well. And what he did, he ran German volume every single day of the week.
Whoa!
Yeah, and I was like, fucking insane. Like, the guy looked incredible. But he said he had no energy before the session or after the session. He couldn't do anything else. And I was like, well, fuck, like, he works in finance. I mean, like, how is he going to pay me? But like, I was like, clearly this is not working for your life. You can't just you can't do 100 reps of everything every day.
Yeah.
It's not.
And that's but like, I'm thinking about that now. Like, like, if I look at some of the fitness work I did in my early days of trying to get fitter, like, there was a time when I had, when I was on a gap year where I took the gap year to, like, try and make a stab at going professional and injured myself and end up coaching most of that time, but a lot of the time was free. Like, that was the only time I could train really hard. A lot of it was a lot of misdirection with it, aimed at the wrong areas. But that was the only time I could train hard and stay consistent with it. Ever since then, when I've had to work, like, even if it's part-time or whatever, like, I've had to do other things in my life, I have not been able to ever stay more consistent for more than 2 weeks of any of these extreme, like, really pushing myself, because it just drags all the mental energy from everything else out of my life. Whereas, like, if I was to do just conditioning stuff, like real basic conditioning stuff, have structure, I think that's the other thing that structure gives you, is that it tells you, like, having that periodized structure, like, it tells you what you're doing is enough. Because I think so many rugby players are guilty of constantly worrying if they can do more, constantly worrying if they could push themselves harder. And I think that's because they haven't got these objective markers or an objective plan where they're saying, okay, these are the things I'm going to work on. And then you're like, oh no, but I haven't worked on speed. What about speed? Oh, what about, handoffs? What about this muscle? What about this? And it adds up, right? You can't do all of that in a week, but you can do all of that in a year if you plan it. And you can then, you're not worrying about your, my strength's dropping a little bit. Okay, maybe it is. Or maybe it's just not, because maybe your actual strength in the game is still there. It's just not able to manifest itself in a squat because you've got other concerns. And so then when you go back to your strength block, because you know that's coming in a few months, you're going to be able to push that and be fine. Yeah,
I think, it seems super reasonable.
Like, and that's the other thing that powerlifters do quite well, is if they're in a block that's not, a peaking block, they're okay with not being competition ready.
Yeah, there's permission. You get permission to not kill yourself.
And I think even with Westside or with other periodization powerlifting specialities, like that's another thing they do quite well is they might, especially when they're doing hypertrophy blocks. It's also because the lifts are kind of technical and they're not the greatest for hypertrophy anyway. But if they're doing hypertrophy blocks, or if they're doing blocks that aren't specific to gaining strength in those movements, they stay away from those movements because it would actually bum them out a little bit to say, oh, I can't do that, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It feels fucking shit to go into the gym and be like 50 kilo off your max.
So, to go back to the 5K example, right? We wouldn't say an easy 5K. I would say an easy 40-minute run. Try to get around 5K, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, but I can run 5K in 25. Yeah, but we're not testing you right now, you know?
Yeah, don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, stop. Just don't try as hard, man. The one thing I say to my groups I coach is like, stop trying so hard.
Yeah. The one thing I always say, or two things I say is, number one is trust the process. Because like, again, it comes from not having a periodized approach, is like wanting to get the most out of every single session. Whereas a session isn't like, it just has to be good enough to, you know, you don't need the strongest brick ever to build a house.
Just fucking turn up.
Yeah. And that's the other thing I say is just tick the box, right? Like some weeks are going to be good, some weeks and you're going to feel great and you can push, but it's going to feel easy to do it. You don't have to push yourself. And then there are other weeks where you have to push yourself just to show up, and then just showing up and you're doing the minimum amount of work and you get it done.
I coach some of the best lifters in the world, right? And I still say that same shit to them. Like, just turn up, just fucking tick the box, get in. And these are people who are top 10 in the world, right?
But that's how they get top in the world, is because that's that consistency.
Like, Kitty's a good example. Like, Kitty will miss a training session. Even if she goes in and she's 20 kilo off her numbers. Like, she just doesn't miss sessions.
Yeah, but then she also doesn't spend 3 hours in that gym, I would assume, right?
She does.
No, but I'm saying 3 hours extra in the gym when she's 20 kilos off her numbers, trying to get those numbers up. Like, because that's not how it works, right? You take what you can get.
She would have done like 2 years ago.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But now she's got
like that, even like, just fucking be consistent. Turn up, tick a box, go back tomorrow, do better.
And that's definitely what rugby players can learn from that. Like, and that's why, you know, I think that what we're doing here with Rugby Muscle is quite good, because it gives that like sort of systematized, thoughtful process to your rugby strength and conditioning. And at the end of the day, like, you can apply this to your skills as well, and you can also try and apply this to your tactics. Like, watch the game, get in that information, understand where you can get better. And it's the easiest thing in rugby is to blame others, because you're on a field with 14 other guys that are trying to help you in achieving your goal, right? It's very easy to say, oh, you know, we lost, and then shirk responsibility. You can't do that on a powerlifting platform. Like, if you miss a squat, who's missed that squat? And it's also, like, the other thing is with rugby, like, especially at the lower level, most games that you lose is not a case because you weren't up for the game or you didn't have the perfect pre-match meal or whatever. Most games that you lose, like, you could have won if you would have prepared better 3 months ago, right? If your preparation had been spot on from then and been consistent.
Yeah.
As a team, 100%. But also as an individual. Yeah. Whereas on powerlifting, you know that firsthand. You're like, okay, it's not really often that your peaking wasn't perfect. It's more often that you're just not strong enough. You know, like, whereas rugby, it's like, you can blame those things in the short term. Oh, the ref. How easy is it to fucking blame the ref? But reality is, if a local village team played the All Blacks, you could have the most biased ref ever. That local village team are never winning that game because they're not better.
Yeah.
And so we've got to, So the ref, mental toughness, all that doesn't come into it. It comes into being better by planning in the long term. That's another. Leave that for another episode, mate. I think we'll call it there. Unless you've got any other points that you really wanted to sort of to nail about this.
No, nothing I really need to go into.
All right. So summary thoughts, mate.
Have a plan. Yep, that's it. Have a plan.
Yeah, that does go into everything, right? Have a plan and because of that plan, you recognize your weaknesses. Because you've got that plan, you're allowed to stay consistent and just tick that box. Like, and even if you miss a session, that plan's still there. Like, you can still consistently, like, that's still there. That's
like how many sessions? Like, you do almost 300 sessions a year.
Yeah.
Right. That's like 0.33% if you miss. It's fucking nothing.
Yeah, it's something I emphasize a lot as well. Like, don't, and then that also goes to the same as not putting everything into every single session, right? It's how much better do you get because you've done 300 sessions or even 150 sessions. Like, you train, 150 sessions is 3 times a week ish, like less than that, right? 150 sessions out a year. How much better are those 150 sessions going to make you? Because you've done 150 of them, not because that one was perfect or not because that other one was perfect, because they've been 150 that are thoughtful, and objective, then you're seeing yourself get better. So I will put in below how to
try, right? It doesn't mean you shouldn't try a session.
No,
it just means
you still need to tick the box, but that's all you need to do.
Yeah.
You don't need to make the fucking best tick ever, but you still got to tick it. I'll put in the description below the playlist. It's how to, I think it's how to program or how to build your program for rugby, something like that. I'll also put in the description below Team Rugby Muscle, so that you might not even know, might even have to worry about how to program for rugby. You will get a program delivered to you every month, following our year-round program, but you can also adjust it to your weaknesses, which we will go through with a whole goal-setting process, a whole game analysis process or personal analysis process, so that you can understand what you're trying to achieve and how we're achieving it through Team Rugby Muscle. That'll also be in the link below. If you want to be a powerlifter, I guess you can contact Alex as well. I'm going to put his stuff in the link in the comments below, or no comments, in the description below.
Use a Kabuki strength thing.
All right, yeah, I will. Don't worry about it, mate. But yeah, I hope you guys have learned a lot from this one. If you did, if you're watching on YouTube, give it a thumbs up. Comment below and let us know any of your thoughts or experiences with this. What you'd like us to discuss in the other future podcasts. And if you're listening on the podcast, 5-star reviews, they are massive. And once again, the like button on YouTube. Hit that like button. Press it. Please press it. Why haven't you pressed it yet? Press it now. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one.